Our next reading is income taxes. Before we start question number 1, we need to do some questions in a sequence that will enhance your understanding. So starting first with question number 16. The Pulaski company reported the following: income before taxes 1000 for year 1, 1000 for year 2, 900 for year 3 and 800 for year 4. And we have also been given taxable income for year 1, 2, 3 and 4. First of all, we need to know the difference between these two numbers. Income before taxes, it is basically your GAAP based income, accounting income, income as per accounting system, IFRS or US GAAP. This is the taxable income on which we pay taxes. There will always be a difference between income calculated under the US GAAP and income calculated as per the tax laws. Why? Because there are certain expenses which we have charged in our income statement, but for tax purposes they are not considered expenses, or they will be considered expenses in the future. Or we might have included certain incomes, but under tax laws they are not yet income, they will be considered income in the future. Vice versa, tax might consider certain expenses which we have not yet considered the expenses, and same way under the tax laws we might have to add certain incomes which under the US GAAP will be considered income later, right? So because of certain differences in accounting and tax laws or accounting and tax regulations, there will be difference between income under the IFRS and US GAAP and the income calculated for tax purposes. Some differences are permanent, like for example, a penalty imposed upon the company by the tax authorities, we normally will consider it as charge against income, but under the tax law it is never considered as an expense. It's a permanent difference. Then we might have included certain interest income on municipal bonds or certain federal government securities. Such securities interest may be exempt under tax, but we have included such income in our income taxes. So there will be certain differences that are permanent in nature and some differences which will be sorted out in the coming year. Temporary differences versus permanent differences. Right now, we have been given income for the 4 years under the US GAAP, income calculated as per the tax laws. The difference between income before taxes, this one, and taxable income are the result of using accelerated depreciation for tax purposes and asset purchased in year 1. So why is the difference? Because we have charged accelerated depreciation in the tax income and we might have charged straight line depreciation under the income reported under the US GAAP. So the difference in income is caused by the difference in depreciation rates. Depreciation under tax is different, depreciation under the US GAAP is different, and that's why the income under the both systems are different. The company had no deferred tax liability prior to year 1. If the tax rate is 40%, what is the amount of deferred tax liability reported at the end of year 4? It's a very interesting question, a good question to start with. All right. First of all, this is the income as per the US GAAP. We would like to pay tax at the rate of 40%. So company would like to pay tax at the rate of 40% on our US based income, 400 tax for the first year, 40% of 1000, 400 tax. This is what the tax we want to pay as per our accounting income. 900 times 40%, that is 360. 900 and 800 times 40%, that will be 320. Right? So this is the tax we would like to pay as per our GAAP based income. But tax is paid based upon taxable income. The tax payable to the tax authorities, it is taxable income multiplied by the tax rate. The tax we will pay will be 40% of 800, that is 320. The tax we will pay in year 2, it will be 40% of 900, that is 360. The tax we will pay in year 3 will be 40% of 900, that is again 360. And tax in year 4 would be 40% of 1000, that is 400. Now this is the tax we would like to pay as per our US based income. Income before taxes multiple of the tax rate. But this is the taxable income calculated as per the tax regulations, tax laws, certain adjustments in your income for expenses and incomes. Now, we would like to pay more tax, but we have to pay less tax now. It doesn't mean we will be paying less tax in the future as well. Right now, we want to pay $400 tax, but we may have to pay less tax now. It means we may be paying less tax now, but in the future we may have to pay more tax. So remember, whenever your gap-based income is more than your taxable income, you would like to pay more tax, but the tax authorities will ask for less tax. Resultantly, in the future, you may have to pay more taxes. This will result in a liability for the future for you called the deferred tax liability. So deferred tax liability is caused when your accounting based income is more than tax based income. You would like to pay more taxes, but in the future, any difference that you haven't paid yet will be settled in the future, will be reversed in the future. Just like you want to pay 400, but you will be paying 320. Next year you want to pay 400, but you'll be paying 360. Next year, what you want to pay is the same what the tax authorities demand, but in the later years, this deferred tax liability will be reversed. You want to pay 320, but the tax authorities will ask for 400. In the next preceding year after 4, you will see the reversal of this deferred tax liability, right? So, what is the deferred tax liability in year 1? We want to pay 400 tax, but we have to pay 320. So, the difference, $80, will be settled in the future. Increase in deferred tax liability is 80, right? So, this is the deferred tax liability change over the period, and the balance in deferred tax liability in the year 1 balance to be carried forward. It's simply 80, assuming there is no deferred tax liability prior to year 1. So starting with 80. Next year again, we would like to pay 400 tax, but we just have to pay 360. This difference of 40 will be again added to the existing balance of your deferred tax liability. It goes up to 120. Next year, we would like to pay 360 tax, and tax authority claim 360. So there is no difference between the tax we want to pay versus the tax we may have to pay, 0. So there is no change in deferred tax liability. In the last year, would like to pay 320 tax as per our accounting income, but we may have to pay more tax. We may have to pay more tax. The difference between these two is 80. And this is negative, remember. Resultantly, your deferred tax liability will now start reversing. Balance went up from 0 to 80. 80 plus 40, 120, 120 plus 0, 120. Now it will reduce. And in the later years, it will reduce further. So the balance of deferred tax liability at the end of year 4 would be 40. One important aspect you must learn right now is that your income tax expense every year is the sum of 3 things probably, in case deferred tax asset as well. Tax payable plus minus changes in deferred tax liability plus minus changes in deferred tax assets. We will discuss deferred tax asset as well as we go along, right? You can check this as well. Income tax expense is 400. This is income tax expense charge in your income statement. This is the income tax payable, 320. As you can see, income tax expense 400 is equal to tax payable 320 plus change in deferred tax liability 320 plus 80, 400. Income tax expense is tax payable plus change in deferred tax liability 400. This is the tax we want to pay. This is the tax payable 360 plus 40, 400. 360 plus 0, 360. 400 minus 80, 320. So every year income tax expense is equal to tax payable plus minus changes in deferred tax liability plus minus changes in deferred tax asset. What I'm going to tell you, please take out your notebooks and write it down right now. Please write it down right now. Income tax expense is equal to tax payable plus any change in deferred tax liability upwards. If deferred tax liability goes up, liability is credited. If liability is being credited, what is debited? Income tax. whenever the deferred tax liability is credited, deferred tax liability goes up. The change in deferred tax liability is added to tax payable. Noted? Please note, it's essential. It will help you solve many questions that involve deferred tax calculations. Income tax expense is equal to tax payable. And if the deferred tax liability falls, the decrease in liability is debited. When the liability is being debited, it means tax expense will be credited. It will reduce, minus. Now, taking it from the other side, income tax expense is equal to tax payable. Income tax expense is equal to taxable income as per US GAAP multiplied by tax rate. And tax payable is simply taxable income multiplied by tax rate, right? So tax payable, deferred tax asset. Deferred tax asset are opposite of deferred tax liability. How do they arise? In certain years when your GAAP-based income is less than your taxable income, means your GAAP-based income is less, GAAP GAAP-based income is less. You want to pay less tax now, but the tax authorities are asking for more tax now. Since tax payable is more now, it will be lower in the future. Paying more tax now will result in lower tax payable in the future. This will result in a deferred tax asset. Remember, when the GAAP-based income is more, you would like to pay more tax, but right now you are paying less tax. This would result in a deferred tax liability. When your GAAP-based income is less, you want to pay less tax, but you have to pay more tax. But in the future, your tax liability will be reduced, meaning you will have to pay less tax. This will result in deferred tax asset. This is also a point that you need to note down, right? So, income tax expense is equal to tax payable. If the deferred tax asset balance is going up, assets are debited. When the assets are debited, the other side would be expense. That's why it will reduce the expense. Tax payable minus increase in deferred tax asset. Conversely speaking, from the other side, tax payable, if there is a reduction in deferred tax asset, a reduction in asset is credited. Resultantly, it will increase your expense on the debit. So remember, any decrease in deferred tax asset over the period, the change in deferred tax asset that is negative or reduction, it will be added as an expense. So these are important points that you must note down somewhere, here or there. You might need them. So we got the result, 40 is the result by just comparing these tax as per the income statement and tax payable, and I'm sure you got the idea. Question number 22. Given the data, following data regarding two firms under different scenarios, determine the amount of deferred tax liability or deferred tax asset. Now what we have been given the data for two firms, and for both of these two firms, we have been given the taxable income as well as the income calculated under the US GAAP. Now let us first see the data given for the first firm, firm 1. Under the tax laws, this is the taxable revenue, depreciation as per tax regulations. Taxable income is 400,000. This is the tax payable as per the tax accounting, and this is the net income as per tax. We have our own accounting regime under the US GAAP and IFRS. We prepare our accounting records based upon the accounting standards. So this is the income calculated under the accounting conventions. Depreciation is different. This is the tax-based depreciation. This is the depreciation as per the accounting records. So there is a difference. As you can see, for the first firm, firm 1, for this firm we can see pre-tax income is 450. In this case, the US GAAP based income, it is more than the income calculated under the tax laws. So GAAP based income is more than the taxable income. We have just read, whenever your GAAP based income is more than the taxable income, you would like to pay more tax now, 180, but you won't be paying more now. Under the tax laws, you might be required to pay less now, but in the future, you will have to pay more. Right now, you may be paying less tax, but in the future, you will have to pay the differential. This will result in increase in deferred tax liability by $20,000. So this would result in a deferred tax liability, and we have for the firm 1. For the firm 2, firm 2 has pre-tax income calculated under the US GAAP or IFRS or whichever accounting regime you are currently in. This is your accounting income, and this is the income calculated as per the tax laws. Now, this is the different situation. Your GAAP-based income or IFRS or whichever accounting rule your accounting system you're working under in, your GAAP-based income is less, your taxable income is more. What does it mean? I would like to pay more tax. I would like to pay less tax because my income is less under the US GAAP. But under the tax laws, I am being required to pay more. I want to pay 196 as per my accounting income, but under the tax law, I may have to pay more. When I have to pay more right now, in the future, I might be paying less. This, in other words, is generating a deferred tax asset for me. You pay more now, but you will be paying less in the future. This is called deferred tax asset. And what's the difference? The difference between what you want to pay, what you have to pay. This is the deferred tax asset, and that makes B to be your correct option. Right? Now, under this question, we have been given 3 years income statement, 2002, 2003, 2004. And we have also been given 3 years return, tax return, 2002, 2003, 2004. Right? Again, there is a difference. Accounting income is 150, whereas taxable income is 125. Accounting income is 250, same 250. But in the last year, accounting income is 350, but taxable income is 375. Right? What are we required to do? Assume an income tax rate of 40%, and there is no tax liability, deferred tax liability as on 31st of December 2001. The deferred tax liability to be shown in the 31st December 2003 balance sheet and 31st December 2004 balance sheet. Now let us do this one by one, step by step. Now first compare starting with the year 2002, going to 2003 and 2004. You have to do them all because there will be some deferred tax liability balance arising in 2002 which will be carried forward to 3 and 4, right? And in the beginning there was no deferred tax liability, 2001, so we need to start from 2002 onwards. Right, in 2002 you would like to pay tax on 150 at the rate of 40%, right? But you are required to pay tax at the rate of 40% on 125. Your GAAP-based income is more, your tax-based income is less. It will result in a deferred tax liability. And how do you calculate it? Down directly we can calculate the difference between 150 and 125 is 25. $25 multiplied by 40%. It means your deferred tax liability now has a balance of $10. Right? And what's the reason why it has happened? See, the difference is caused by depreciation. You charge less depreciation, hence your income is more. As per the tax laws, the depreciation is higher, resultantly income is less. There would be some justifiable reasons. And of course, depreciation is a temporary difference. Sooner or later, the differences will be netted out in the future. In 2003, you can see the income as per the US GAAP is 250. And income as per the tax laws, tax returns 250. There is no difference, resultantly no creation of any deferred tax liability. So means the balance stays the same. Deferred tax liability has a balance of 10. What happened in the last year? Your accounting income is 350. Your taxable income is 375. Take just the difference. Just take the difference. 375 and 350, the difference is 25. Multiply the difference with the tax rate, 25 multiplied by 40. Again, same. But this time, your accounting income is less. Your tax income is more. You want to pay tax at the rate of 40%, 350 multiplied by 0.40. You want to pay tax 140. But under the tax laws, you will have to pay more, 375 times 0.40, 150. So this previous deferred tax liability which was created in the early periods, it will now be reversed, right? So deferred tax liability first arises in the early period. It is then gradually eliminated it reverses in the later period. Just like a deferred tax asset is created in the early period, with the passage of time when the temporary differences are reversed, the deferred tax asset balance is also reduced over the period. So it will fall by same -10, so the balance would be simple 0. So the balance of deferred tax liability in 2003 and 2004 would be 10 and 0, so that makes C to be the correct option. And as you can see, C it is. Okay. Dance Club purchases new sound equipment for 25,352. It will work for 5 years and has no salvage value, right? For financial reporting purpose, the straight line depreciation method is used. This asset would be depreciated using straight line method under financial reporting, US GAAP, but for the tax purposes, depreciation is 35% of original cost in year 1, 35% in year 2, 30% in year 3. Right. And what about the rest of it? It will be over. 35 plus 35, 70 plus 30 is gone. We will carry on depreciating the asset for 5 years, whereas in the tax laws, within 3 years over. Annual revenues are constant at 14,384 over these 5 years. If the tax rate for the year 4 and 5 changes from 41 to 31, what is the deferred tax liability as of the end of year 3? First of all, we will have to calculate the reason of difference. Depreciation calculated under the straight line basis means every year the depreciation charge would be 25 upon 352, 352 divided by 5. That will be depreciation in year 1, 2 and 3. We just need 3 years. For third year we need the balance of deferred tax liability. So depreciation in year 1 is 5070.4. Depreciation in year 2 is 50704, 50704. These are the depreciation figures for the first 3 years under the US GAAP. Under the tax laws, the depreciation rates are different. Depreciation for the first year is 35% of the cost, 25,352 multiplied by 35%, that is 8873.2. For the next year, depreciation would be the same, 35 in year 2 as well, 35% is 8873.2. In the last year, the depreciation would be straight full 30% of 25,352, that is 7605.6. Right. We can calculate on year basis. That will be too time consuming, just like in the previous question. What we can do, we can calculate the total of this depreciation over the 3 years period and calculate the total of this depreciation over the 3 years periods. We will get the difference. So the total depreciation charge under the US GAAP in the 3 years period is 5070.4 times 3. It is 15211.2. Depreciation charge as per the tax laws, it's 8873.2 times 2 plus 7605.6. So the total is fully depreciated. Under the tax laws, it is fully depreciated, 25352. Right. Now what is the difference between the depreciation charge under the US GAAP and depreciation charge as per the tax laws? The difference between these two, 15211.2, is 10140.8. We can see just at a glance, because we have the numbers. You have charged less depreciation under the US GAAP because straight line depreciation for 5 years. Whereas under the tax laws, depreciation is charged within 3 years and asset is totally written off within 3 years. Which means your GAAP based income is more than your taxable income. You want to pay more tax, but because the depreciation charge is high under the tax payment is less, tax liability is lower. Resultantly, it will result in a deferred tax liability. How do we calculate the deferred tax liability? We see the difference between these two depreciations. It's 10140.8. Remember, when you have to calculate the deferred tax liability or deferred tax asset and you have been given some rates, take the future rate. Please remember, the difference in accounting income and tax income multiplied with the future tax rate. Future tax rate is changing from 41 to 31. So you take 31. So 10140.8 times 31%, it gives you 3144. This is the overall balance that has stayed. The deferred tax liability still has this balance at the end of year 3. Will this balance stay and go on? No. It will be reversed in the next subsequent years of year 4 and year 5. Remember, deferred tax liability and deferred tax asset, once created in the early periods, they are reversed because deferred tax liability and asset, they have been caused because of certain temporary differences. When these differences will be sorted out under the tax and accounting regimes, deferred tax liability and assets, they will reverse in the later periods. So that makes A to be the correct option. So these were the sequence of questions that I hope gave you the basic idea about deferred tax liability, deferred tax asset. Let's now do things in sequence and see how we can tackle the remaining questions. Question number 1, after getting some foundation, some basic ideas, this is I call reverse engineering. I call this reverse engineering. We have caused many revolutionary success. Many 12th graders are CMAs in FTC. Why? Because they have just focused on questions only and doing the questions going back to the book. Questions, it's a reverse order. Normally, what we do from book to the software and questions, we move in the reverse order. This is called reverse engineering. Doing questions and then enhancing your ideas through questions alone. This is the shortest, quickest way and most sure way to get through the exam. Ultimately, it's the question that matters. And you will learn everything through question. That's my belief. That's what has worked for us in many professional certifications. Question number 1. A firm needs to adjust its financial statements for a change in tax rate. Taxable income is 80 and pre-tax income, when he uses the word pre-tax income is GAAP-based operating income on which we would like to pay. We would like to pay tax on this amount, but we will have to pay tax on the taxable income. Remember, tax is paid on taxable income, but this pre-tax income is used to calculate the tax expense. The current tax rate is 50 and the new tax rate is 40. The effect on taxes payable of adjusting the tax rate is closest to, since for the purpose of tax payment, we consider the taxable income, not the pre-tax income. So this is the taxable income 80,000. Since the tax rate is going to be revised, so what will be the difference? Tax rate is being changed from 50 to 40. So what will be the change in liability? 50 minus 40, and simply take the 10%. So 8,000 would be the simple adjustment for tax payable. Effect on tax payable for the rate change, simply first you had to pay 50% of 80, now you will be paying 40% of 80. The difference is simply 8,000. So that makes C to be your correct option. Next. A firm buys an asset with an estimated useful life of 5 years for $100,000. At the beginning of the year, the firm will depreciate the asset on a straight line basis with no salvage value. That means the depreciation charge in accounting under the US GAAP will be $20,000, and it will use double declining balance depreciation for tax. What is double declining? We discussed this in detail. What you do, you take 1 upon the useful life, that is 5, calculate the depreciation percentage under the straight line method, that is 20%, double the amount or the percentage, and use this percentage to calculate the depreciation for the all years that follow. So what we need, the tax base for this asset at the end of the first year. If we need to calculate the depreciation for the first year, it is 40% of the asset's cost. If you need to calculate the book value, if 40% in the first year represent depreciation, 60% of this would represent the book value. Or in other words, if 40,000 is the depreciation, 100,000 less 40, 60 would be the book value. Other way around, one way or the other, you get the right answer. That's the book value under the tax laws at the end of the year. That makes A to be your correct option. Next. Which of the following factors is least likely to cause a difference between effective tax rate and statutory tax rate? Effective tax rate is the tax rate calculated based upon this formula. The income tax payable divided by your economic income calculated in the US GAAP. Income tax payable divided by economic income. This is called the effective tax. This may not be what the actual tax rate is. The tax rates mentioned in the statutes, in the tax laws, it's called the statutory rate. Maybe the rate mentioned in the statute under the tax laws is 40%. But you may have to pay tax at a total tax of, let's say, 160,000, whereas your taxable income is, let's say, is 350. Your economic income, sorry, 355. If you calculate the percentage could be 45%. So your effective tax rate could be more than the statutory tax rate, or your effective tax rate could be lower, right? Depending upon what were the temporary adjustments that have caused the difference between the tax payable and the income tax expense. So what the question is, which of the following factor is least likely? Let me clear up the screen. Which of the following is least likely to cause a difference between firm's effective tax rate and statutory tax rate? The difference between statutory tax rate 40% and the effective tax rate is caused by permanent differences. Permanent differences such as tax credits or non-deductible expenses, certain expenses that you deduct from your income statement, but these expenses are not allowed to be deducted under the tax laws. Permanent differences result in difference in statutory tax rate and your effective tax rate. Right? This is the point to remember. Permanent differences like tax credit, non-deductible expenses like any penalty charged by the tax authorities, that penalty will never be considered as an expense for tax purposes. So just like interest received on municipal bonds, it's never considered as an income under the tax laws. So such differences are permanent differences. Permanent differences are the reasons why there is a difference between the statutory tax rate and effective tax rate. Deductible expenses are eventually adjusted in the future under the deferred tax assets and liabilities. So that makes A to be your correct option. It is. Moving on, which of the following best describes valuation allowance? What is valuation allowance? Little theory. There is a concept in accounting called prudence concept. You can be a very good CFA. You can be a very good internal auditor if you have a solid background in accounting. Like an ACC can be a very effective financial analyst. An ACC can be a very good internal auditor. So if your accounting background is well entrenched, whatever you're doing, CFA or CPA or CIA, whichever dimension you take yourself, you have all the tools available. This is what we have studied in accounting. Prudence concept says that expenses must not be understated. Incomes must not be overstated. Liabilities must not be understated. Assets must not be overstated. We just discussed that whenever your gap-based income is less, your taxable income is more, you may have to pay more tax now, but in the future you will be paying less tax. Whenever gap-based income is less, taxable income is more, it will result in deferred tax asset. Deferred tax asset is in fact the benefit for you that will represent as a reduction in tax payable in the future. Just like we cannot overstate any asset like inventory, it is tested for impairment. I mean, if there is NRV is low, you have to bring it down. Cost versus LCM rule, I'm sure you have discussed this previously in our previous topic, inventory. Inventory cannot be overstated. Long-lived assets cannot be overstated. If they are impaired, you have to bring them down. You have to charge depreciation. Likewise, deferred tax assets must not be overstated. If you think there will be no future gains against which we will take the benefit of deferred tax asset, then you will have to reduce the deferred tax asset by a certain amount called valuation allowance. Valuation allowance is the same thing as we charge allowance for doubtful debts. Allowance for doubtful debt is just like an anticipated loss on our customers. Valuation allowance is same idea, that we might not be able to fully utilize the amount available in deferred tax asset. Like for example, we have a balance available of $10,000. This $10,000 benefit can be adjusted against the future incomes. If we expect things in the future to be bad, if there are losses expected, then it means we will not be able to take the benefit of this deferred tax asset available. Then we have to reduce this deferred tax asset by a certain amount based upon our assumptions, computations, called valuation allowance. So which of the following best describe the valuation allowance? Valuation allowance is a contra deferred tax asset account. Just like allowance for doubtful debts, you can't overstate your assets. Valuation allowance doesn't allow you to overstate your deferred tax asset. So valuation allowance is a reserve created when deferred tax assets are greater than the deferred tax liabilities. No, they are created when we believe that in the future there will be losses and we will not be able to take benefit of this tax assets we have. This is an incorrect statement. So the valuation allowance is a reserve against deferred tax liability. No, it is a reserve created against deferred tax assets based on the likelihood that these losses, these assets will not be realized. We have a deferred tax asset. Maybe in the future we will have more losses. So we will not be able to adjust this deferred tax asset against the future tax payable against the future earning. Since the future earning is hopeless, there are losses expected. So we can't adjust this deferred tax asset against the future tax payable we may have to pay in the future. So remember, valuation allowance is a reserve against deferred tax assets based on the likelihood that those assets will not be realized. We won't be able to utilize the balance available in deferred tax assets. That makes C to be the correct option, and C it is. A temporary difference between income tax expense and tax payable results in what? A temporary difference between income tax expense and tax payable. It could either be a deferred tax asset or a deferred tax liability. If GAAP-based income is more, it's a deferred tax liability. If a GAAP-based income is less, it's a deferred tax asset. It will result in deferred tax items. We know that. So no need to read the other options. They're self-explanatory. Next, question number 6. A company purchased new Pizza's oven for $12,676. It will work for 5 years and has no salvage value. The tax rate is 41% and annual revenue are constant at 7192. For the financial reporting, the straight line depreciation method is used, but for the tax purposes, depreciation is 35% of the original cost in year 1 and year 2. And the remaining 30% in year 3. 35 plus 35, 70 plus 30 in year 3. So it means straight line for 5 years under the straight line method in accounting, and these percentages for tax purposes. For this question, ignore all expenses other than depreciation. What is the tax payable? Tax payable is equal to taxable income multiplied by the tax rate. First, we will have to calculate the taxable income, and that is to be calculated under the tax statutes, tax laws. As per the tax laws, revenue, there is no adjustment in revenue. Write the revenue down 7192. For which year? Year 1. From this, we need to deduct the expenses. There is no other expense except depreciation. All other tax expense and accounting expenses are the same. The difference is just the depreciation. Accounting depreciation is straight line based, whereas the tax depreciation is declining balance method. That means the first year depreciation would be 35% of the cost of the asset. That's 35% of 126,676 will give you 4436.6. 4436.6. Deducting this depreciation from the revenue gives you the taxable income. This is the taxable income upon which we will pay tax, 2755.4. Right? What's the tax rate? 41%. Multiply this tax. This is taxable income. Remember, had I used the accounting depreciation, that would have been your accounting income. This is the taxable income. Multiplying the tax rate with the taxable income means the tax payable would be 2755.4 times 41%. That is 1129.714, approximately 1130. That makes B to be the correct option. Which of the following statement best justifies analyst scrutiny of valuation allowance? Valuation allowance, I told you, it's a contra deferred tax asset account. Whenever we expect that our deferred tax assets may not be fully recoverable in the future because of losses in the future. So in that case, we may have to reduce the deferred tax asset through valuation allowance. First option, if the difference in taxable and pre-tax income are never, if the differences in taxable and pre-tax incomes are never expected to reverse, a company's equity may be understated. We will discuss this later in certain MCQs. Certain differences are temporary, which are sorted out in the future, which will result in reduction in the deferred tax assets and deferred tax liability balances, but certain differences will never be sorted out. They're permanent differences. So in case of a deferred tax liability, if the difference is temporary, it will be sorted out in the future period. But if the deferred tax liability has been created because of a permanent difference, that deferred tax liability is added in equity. Remember, so if differences in taxable and pre-tax incomes are never expected to reverse and it results in a deferred tax liability, it will be added in equity. But it could also result in deferred tax asset. So we can't say that adding of deferred tax liability will cause the equity to be understated, right? It could be other way around also. It could be deducted. A deferred tax liability negative balance could be deducted from equity, not always added. Incorrect statement. Why would an analyst scrutinize valuation allowance? Just like companies manipulate their financial statements through over and under depreciation of assets, over and under provisioning of accounts receivables, provision for doubtful debts or allowance for doubtful debts, right? So through this valuation allowance, through depreciations, through bad debt provisioning, companies management might try to manipulate profit. That is why an analyst would like to scrutinize valuation allowance. Because changes in valuation allowances can be used to manage reported income. Just like when we provide less depreciation, profit is overstated. When we provide less allowance for doubtful debts, profit is overstated. Likewise, we can manipulate with the valuation allowance to manipulate our reported income. That's why the analyst is interested to scrutinize how the valuation allowance is made up, right? So that makes C to be the correct option. Why not B? Increases in valuation allowance may be a signal that management expects earnings to improve in the future. Wrong. We have just agreed. If expected losses are going to go up, only then valuation allowance shows an increase. If we expect more losses in the future, we will have to create a valuation allowance to reduce the deferred tax asset. How can we say when the earnings are improving? In that case, we will be able to utilize this deferred tax asset to adjust our taxes payable. If there are income, we will utilize deferred tax asset, no use of a valuation allowance. But if there are losses, there has to be more valuation allowance to reduce the deferred tax assets, indicating that you might not be able to fully utilize the balance in the deferred tax asset. So that makes C to be the correct option. Analyze every option. Read every option in detail. This is the quickest way of getting around things. Next, deferred tax liability may result from, we have read this a little while earlier. Whenever your GAAP-based income is more than your taxable income, you would like to pay more tax, but you have to pay less tax now, but in the future, phasenge, deferred tax liability would result. And how do we calculate the deferred tax liability? The difference between these two multiplied by the future tax rate. Why? Because the deferred tax liability for the future, deferred tax asset relates to the future. So the difference between these two is multiplied by the future tax rate. So pre-tax income greater than the taxable income. Pre-tax word is used for GAAP-based income, right? So pre-tax greater than taxable income due to temporary differences, and multiply this difference with the future tax rate gives you the deferred tax liability. This is how deferred tax liabilities are created. That makes A to be your correct option. A it is. Okay, we go. A healthcare company purchased a new MRI machine on 1st January X3. At the year end, the company recorded straight line depreciation expense of $75,000 for book purposes, that is the accounting depreciation, and accelerated depreciation expense of $94,000 for tax purposes. Okay. We have charged less depreciation, 75, but as per tax laws, accelerated depreciation expense should have been 94. That means your GAAP-based income is more than your taxable income. It will result in a deferred tax liability, which can be calculated by calculating the difference between 94,000 minus 75,000 multiplied by the future tax rate. We will see that. What's the future tax rate? So this is the first item. Then management estimates warranty expenses related to corrective eye surgeries performed in 2003 is to be $250,000. This is our estimate warranty. Those who have read financial reporting in CMA Part 1, external financial reporting, whenever we create a warranty liability, the entry that we pass is debit warranty expense, credit warranty liability, entire amount. While liability related to warranty may extend way into the future, maybe warranty for a mobile phone lasts 2 years, warranty for an air conditioner compressor could last 10 years. But as per the US GAAP, you have to charge the whole estimated warranty expense in the first year, whole of it. But under the tax laws, only that warranty expense is considered valid that has been paid in cash, actual warranty expense. Right? Now there is a difference. We have accrued the whole of warranty expense under the US GAAP, but under the tax laws, the first year warranty actual expense is 100. Now, in this case, you have charged more expense to your income statement. Under the accrual concept, warranty expense must be charged fully in the first year. Whereas, as per the tax laws, actual warranty expense is deductible expense. Resultantly, in this case, things are now other way around. You have charged more warranty costs, resultantly your GAAP-based income is lower. Your taxable income is higher. So you will be paying more tax now because higher taxable income. Resultantly, in the future, you will pay less taxes. So it results in deferred tax asset. How do we calculate the difference between these two? 250,000 less 100,000 multiplied by what? The future tax rate, right? The company tax rate for the current year is 35, but the tax rate of 37 has been enacted into law and will apply in the future periods. Remember, differences in incomes multiplied with the future tax rate, 37% in this case and 37% in this case. So let's calculate 94 less 75 multiplied by 37. So deferred tax liability is 7030. Deferred tax asset 250 less 100 multiplied by 37%, that is 55,500. So this is the deferred tax liability, deferred tax asset, deferred tax liability. Now again, an important concept that must be grasped right now. If the deferred tax asset or deferred tax liability results from non-current items, they are called deferred tax assets non-current. Deferred tax liability non-current. Like this difference has been caused because of long-lived assets, a long-term item, non-current item. So this difference is called the deferred tax liability long-term, non-current. Right? But in this case, if this is related to your income statement items are any difference because of income statement items, it is considered as a temporary difference reported as current. So in that case, it will be deferred tax assets current and deferred tax liabilities current. So in other words, if deferred tax asset and liability has arisen because of a long-term item, it is called non-current. If it is because of current items from income statement, it's called current. Remember, deferred tax assets current non-current, deferred tax liability current non-current, they must be reported separately. They cannot be netted off. They cannot be netted off. This is under the US GAAP. Under the IFRS, deferred tax asset and liability, there is no distinction between current and non-current. Under the IFRS, please remember, under the IFRS, deferred tax asset and deferred tax liability, they are both considered non-current. Under IFRS, there is no categorization of current. They are non-current. But in the US GAAP, the difference is made between current and non-current. They must be reported separately and they must not be netted off. Right? This is how you create more questions out of a single question. This is what you do, something I call more than 100 times what you can do from a book. It's all about the questions. A. Next. If a firm uses accelerated depreciation for tax purposes and straight line depreciation for financial reporting purposes, we immediately got the idea that when the depreciation on the financial statements is straight line, whereas in tax accounting we are using the accelerated depreciation method. In this case, your US GAAP based income would be more than your taxable income. Whenever this happens, it results in deferred tax liability. So it's that which of these is least likely to occur? A temporary difference will result between tax and financial reporting. Yes, it's a true statement. We need to find the one that is incorrect. Income tax expense will be greater than the tax payable. Yes, we have discussed that income tax expense is equal to tax payable plus increase in deferred tax liability. So since A is equal to B plus C, then definitely as per the analogy, A is greater than B. Makes sense, right? A permanent difference will result between tax and financial reporting. Wrong. This is not a temporary, this is not a permanent difference, because this depreciation accelerated and straight line, they will be sorted out in the future. The differences will reverse. Deferred tax liabilities account, the balance, it will be reversed in the future, right? This is incorrect. So we were expected to find the one that was incorrect. Right. Moving on to the next question, question number 11. A firm purchased a piece of equipment for $6,000 with the following information provided. Revenue will be $15,000 per year. The equipment has 3 years life expectancy and no salvage value. The firm tax rate is 30%. Straight line depreciation is used for financial reporting and double declining is used for tax purposes. Calculate tax payable. When it says tax payable, focus entirely upon tax laws. It means totally cross out the straight line depreciation. We'll take this income, we will use the double declining method, and accordingly we'll calculate the tax payable based upon the taxable income. So let's say this is year 1, this is year 2. Revenues are the same for both year. $15,000, $15,000. Then we need to calculate depreciation. How do we do that? Double declining balance means 1 upon the estimated useful life multiplied by 100. That will give you the straight line percentage, 33.333. Under double declining, whatever the percentage you calculate for the straight line method, double that, 66.667. This is the depreciation rate to be used under the double declining method. So the depreciation for the first year would be 15,000 multiplied by 66.67%. The asset has a cost of 6,000. So 6,000 multiplied by point, that is 4,000 approximately. So out of 6,000, 4,000 has been depreciated. The remaining balance is 2,000, right? So you charge 2,000 times, that is 13,333. So this is the depreciation for the first year under double declining. 6,000 less this depreciation, book value is 2,000. Multiply 2,000 with this, you get the depreciation for the third year. Now this will give you the taxable income in year 1 and taxable income in year 2. 15,000 less, this will be 13,667. Next step is to calculate the tax payable. Simple. 40%, what is the tax rate? 30%. 30% of 11,000, that will be 3,300, and 30% of 13,667, that will be 4,100. So this is the tax payable in year 1, tax payable in year 2. So that makes C to be the correct option. C it is. Question number 12. Lasertec has net temporary difference between tax and book income, resulting in a deferred tax liability of 30.6 million. This is your deferred tax liability. According to the US GAAP, an increase in tax rate would have what impact on the deferred tax and net income respectively? Now, when the tax rate goes up, which means you will have to pay more tax. And when the tax amount goes up, your net income calculated whether under US GAAP or under the tax laws, your net income falls. So increase in tax rate will result in more tax, and more tax means net income falls, either A or B, right? Remember an important idea. Deferred tax asset, if you remember the calculation, deferred tax liability, temporary difference multiplied by the future tax rate. Temporary differences multiplied by the future tax rate. When the tax rate goes up, the deferred tax liability as well as deferred tax asset both go up, increase. So that makes B to be the correct option, and B it should be. Next, for purpose of financial analysis, an analyst should do what? Always consider deferred tax liability as a liability. If deferred tax liability results in a permanent difference, in that case it will be considered as a part of equity. Not always liability, it could be a part of equity if it is caused because of the reasons that are permanent in nature. Wrong. Always consider deferred tax liability as a part of stockholders' equity. No. If it is because of temporary differences, it would be considered as a deferred tax liability. So it could be equity, it could be liability. Determine the treatment of deferred tax liability on case-to-case basis. Is it because of permanent differences? It becomes part of equity. If it's because of temporary differences, it will become part of deferred tax liability and remain as a liability as this. So that makes B to be your correct option. B it is. Next, a company purchased a new pizza oven for $12,676. It will work for 5 years and has no salvage value. The tax rate is 41%. Annual revenue is this. For financial reporting, and we use straight line method. For tax purposes, we use 35 in the first year, 35% second year, and 30% depreciation rate in the third year. For this question, ignore all expenses other than depreciation. Other expenses as per tax and accounting, they are the same. What is the deferred tax liability as of the end of the year? 1. Now there are two methods. One is the smart approach, other one is normally what conventionally is done. Let's do the first method, then we'll do the smart approach. So what we do, we calculate income as per US GAAP, income as per tax. Revenue is the same under both systems, 12,676, 12,676, right? Depreciation under the US GAAP is 35% of the cost of the asset. 35% of 12,676. Under the straight line method, I think we are taking GAAP first, so it will be simply divided with 5. 12,676 divided by 5. So the depreciation as per the US GAAP is 2535.2. As per the tax laws, the depreciation would be 35% of the original cost, 12676. It gives you 4437, right? Now if you calculate the accounting income, it's 12676 less 2535.2. It's 12676 less 2535.2. It's 10140.8. This is the income calculated as per the US GAAP. Under the tax laws, 12676 minus 4437, it's 8239. Now this is the GAAP based income. This is the tax based income. Since your US GAAP based income is more than the tax based income, the difference between these two, whatever the difference is, to be multiplied with the future tax rate, which is given as I think 41%. This is the first approach. Under the second approach, what we do, instead of just calculating income under GAAP and tax, simply take the original assets value and simply take the depreciation under both systems. Depreciation under the US GAAP and depreciation under the tax laws. The difference is that we charge depreciation on straight line basis under the US GAAP, that will be simply 2535.2, and under the tax law depreciation is 4437. This is what is causing difference in these two. So take this difference and this is the difference, 12535.2 less 4437. The difference is 1901.8. Simply multiply this difference with the tax rate, the future tax rate or whatever the rate is given, only 41 is given. Multiply this with 41, you get 779.738, that is approximately 780. So this is recommended approach. Take the item that is causing the difference, Take the difference between these two items, multiply it with the tax rate, you will straight away get the deferred tax asset or a liability. That makes C to be the correct option, and C it is.